Joining us now, someone whose Watergate testimony electrified the country, former Nixon White House counsel John Dean, also the man whose reporting alongside Bob Woodward helped make what was called at the time a third-rate burglary into front-page news. CNN political analyst Carl Bernstein, also CNN chief legal analyst Jeffrey Toobin. He's done a lot too, as does CNN chief political analyst Gloria Borger, CNN political analyst and USA Today columnist Kirsten Powers, former Republican presidential candidate and U.S. Senator Rick Santorum, and former Obama communications director Jen Psaki. Both she and Senator Santorum, thankfully, are CNN political commentators.
Whisperer, and he's the go-between. And when he is in a restaurant and on a telephone with the President of the United States, by the way, is that secure?
Exactly. It's not a secure
on the phone with the
phone.
President, everybody at the table is kind of listening, and the President says, you know, I'm not interested. You've got to get them to mention the investigations or whatever it is. He hangs up the phone and says the President's more interested in Biden than he is in Ukraine. That's a big story.
Right. I'm sorry.
No?
Well, look, I think you're spinning what the testimony was.
I'm not spinning. I listened to it.
The testimony just said that he mentioned the investigation to Sondland. He didn't say, I want a quid pro quo. It didn't say any of that. All it says is, I overheard him mention the investigation. And from that, you take, oh, they're tying the two together.
What Sondland said...
That is spinning what happened.
What Taylor said, that Sondland said, is that President Trump cares more about the investigation
asked him what he thought
of Biden.
He didn't say the president said
Why would he lie about that?
It's like everything else in this investigation. It's someone's opinion of what they think the president's doing.
No, he's
If we take a step back for a second, though, I think ultimately the question is, should the precedent be that any president of the United States of either party is holding back assistance of military assistance or any kind in exchange for personal political gain? That's the big question, which Adam Schiff kept bringing it back to. And the question here with Sondland or whomever is involved as a firsthand person who viewed it is, was this wrong? And was this just a bunch of rogue actors around the world who were acting? That's not believable. That's the problem.
First off, we don't know that the two were tied together. You have people who speculate the two are tied together. We don't know for a fact that that's the case.
You think Rudy's working on his own?
They're all roguely working on their own.
Can we agree this is a good day for the truth?
To the investigation. That we don't know that. There's lots of speculation, but we don't know that.
I don't understand. I've read the transcript. The president, everyone here has read the transcript. The president of Ukraine asked about the Javelin, says we're ready to buy them, we're almost ready to buy them. First thing Trump says is, do us a favor.
And he talked about what?
He talked about the 2016 election. Crowd strike. Right, the conspiracy theory. And then he goes off onto
he doesn't.
And then he goes, and the other thing is the Bidens.
With all due respect, Anderson, and then Zelensky talks. Everybody says, oh, he asked about the favor, and then he asked about this. No, he didn't.
Zelensky is kissing his ass throughout the entire thing.
Zelensky talks, and he brings up Giuliani. He brings up the investigation.
Right.
And Trump responds to that. So Trump did not bring it up himself.
And the other thing, what is the other thing? That is part of the ask.
The point, no, it's not. It's, it's in response to
I want you to do us a favor.
So far in the weeds here.
Stuff.
I'm sorry. Are you saying,
and the other thing,
are you saying everything else that he says in the conversation relates to the one comment, do me a favor? No. He said, do me a favor. He asked for the favor.
Here's one thing. And the other thing is that. The rest is not.
That's not how I think a rational person would read that.
Whose idea was this? I mean, if that's really what you're maintaining, I mean, I think it's ridiculous. I think it's very.
I can tell you, Republicans overwhelmingly feel that way.
It's very clear that the president was.
They say that
was very involved in this. Right. It's in the readout. It's now been overheard in a phone call.
Does the president care about this? Yes, I believe he does.
And it's like, but really, the idea that he somehow didn't have anything to do with this, when we sat and listened to these two career diplomats talk about how highly unusual and problematic this kind of behavior was, and I mean, to the point that they're sending a cable to the Secretary of State, something that's
should not have been pushing this issue. Right. I don't think anybody on the Republican side would disagree that this was not great behavior.
The president was
but it doesn't. But that doesn't mean
that's why there's an impeachment hearing.
But it doesn't mean he tied it to military aid. Those are the two fundamental things.
But he was asked on camera, what did you want Zelensky to do after the call? And he said, well, I think any responsible person would launch a major investigation into Biden.
Can we look at the big picture for a minute? Let's take it, Rick.
That's different.
Rick, let's look at the big picture for a minute. You're down in the weeds here, threading the needle. What we are witnessing is the construction of evidence about a conspiracy to undermine our electoral process through the intervention of a foreign power. And that conspiracy, today was a great day for the truth. We don't know where this is going to go. What is clear is there's a different dynamic out there, as evidenced by the Republicans' response. Senators are taking, you talk to them, they're taking this seriously. Republican senators are taking this seriously. They don't like this information. They don't like Trump, a lot of them. Am I right about this?
Well, yeah, we like what he does, we don't like what he says.
Okay, so, well, that's important. And a number of them think he's crazy and say it to you and say it to me.
He's a street fighter.
Okay, they say a lot more than that, Rick. They really talk about his stability. All of this is in play now. We have a different dynamic after today. We have new information. I'm not predicting anything except that none of us knows where this is going. And that there is now...
I will predict with you with absolute certainty, as I predicted during the Russia investigation, where this is going. It's going nowhere. The president is going to run for re-election.
You could be right.
He may run as an impeached president, as someone who gets impeached by the House, but the United States Senate is not going to impeach him.
John, I mean, given what you saw today, did this move the needle for any Republican senators who are watching? I find it hard to believe it did.
And what struck me today in listening to these two witnesses is they already have more than they had against Richard Nixon to impeach him. Just on all accounts, because the evidence is there. It was my testimony, a few people that were lower in the pecking order than me, and it happened before the tapes. The tapes didn't come. He was already impeached, and then the tapes came out.
With all due respect, John, with all due respect,
that's a different story.
1998, who perjured himself, who obstructed justice, who tampered with witnesses, and the Democrats said, you know, it's all wrong. We don't like it. But it's not impeachable.
But it's not.
It is exactly the same.
You mean he was impeached?
Just because someone did something that we thought was not great.
We use that word impeach
Clinton
loose.
did not put our national security at risk. Yes, what
I
he
don't
did
think
was gross,
I don't think Donald Trump put our national security at risk. Because if he did, then Barack Obama should be impeached because he didn't give a single weapon to you.
Why does McMaster...
Barack Obama...
All the Democrats who didn't want to give a penny in weapons to Ukraine is now saying not holding back aid of weapons is an impeachable offense.
Okay, Gloria, we got it. Let's have more time,
I don't think we should... This is not about Barack Obama.
Thanks very much. Back now with our political and legal team.
I just need to make a point on what you said, because it's not correct. He said that the Republicans are out there saying that it was a failed quid pro quo. That's not what they were arguing. They say it wasn't a quid pro quo at all, because to have a quid pro quo, the person has to know that something's being threatened in exchange for something else. And what Republicans were saying is, the Ukrainians never knew that the aid was being withheld for that reason.
We know they did know.
It's not an attempted.
How about attempted bribery?
That's not true.
It's not an attempt.
How about attempted bribery?
It's not an attempt if the other side doesn't know that there's a...
But that's not true. All the reporting now... Go ahead.
We've known that they've known since early August. It doesn't even matter. The question is, should the President of the United States, he had a failed offer of extortion in exchange for military assistance. Is that acceptable for any president? That's the question.
That's not the point they're making. The point they're making is
the question that's
not
being
that there wasn't an orchestrated plan to say, you either give us this or we'll do this. That was what they're saying.
Nothing is orchestrated in this.
But he didn't extort them because he was hot. That's why.
No, you're wrong. It's just you can't have extortion if nothing is being threatened. If he's saying, look, I want you to do this, but he's not threatening
has been running around there for months. I mean, even as far back as February, there's been reporting that the Ukrainians were aware.
I don't think anybody questions that that the president wanted Zelensky to do this. No one's doubting this. We all accept that. The question is, did he use levers of power to force him to do it? And Republicans are saying no. We agree with one. We don't agree with the other.
Pearson, the other argument that Republicans are making is that, well, ultimately, no investigation was launched and the aid went through. Which
because
is
there was
true,
a public outcry.
But that's the thing. There was a whistleblower who came forward, and the White House released the aid.
I mean, also, the other thing is you just have to remember how dependent Ukraine is on the United States. And so even if it wasn't explicit, and I think it actually was explicit in the readout, you know, that you disagree that that's what the president was saying. I think it was explicit. But even if it wasn't explicit, they know how dependent they are, and they know that they have to basically please Trump in whatever way he is putting forth to them. And so if they're being told that they need to be doing this, even if it's not tied
Ukraine is in
directly,
so much
they
better
can
shape
do
even
they
before
can
they
do,
say that
they
they
can
were
do the
to-
math.
They also know
They can do
that
the
Trump
math.
did not go and go there for his inauguration.
Right.
So there have already been signs that there's unhappiness, and so they're running scared.
And that's the other thing. I think there's a legitimate unhappiness. The president doesn't like foreign aid. The president is uncomfortable with involving himself in these kind of conflicts, doesn't want to tick off Russia. I think all those things are true that are legitimate reasons to hold back aid. And by the way, there's a long history of corruption in Ukraine.
Rick,
all of those are legitimate reasons to withhold the aid.
But why did he bring up Biden in that call?
Because, I mean, I hate to say this. When he said, I have a favor to ask.
No, but why bring up Biden?
I'm getting to that. He says, I have a favor to ask. And he talked about CrowdStrike. He did not talk about Biden, which goes counter to the narrative that everybody says all he cares about is Biden.
But
because when he asked for the favor, he didn't mention
Actually,
Biden.
Admiral Vindman testified to some things.
One thing, Johnny, why don't you say to Mulvaney and Bolton, go ahead, go up to Capitol Hill and tell them what the president told you. You don't like hearsay? Here's your opportunity.
And Bolton will talk about Russia. That's the elephant in the room about all of this. What the president has done in terms of Russia that has been revealed in these hearings.
What's the answer to my question?
Well, two things I want to say about Carl. I remember sitting on a panel a year and a half ago, and you said the exact same thing with respect to the Russia investigation, and no one's prosecuting the president on the Russia investigation. There are a lot of assumptions that everybody's making that frankly have not borne by the evidence. But let's just take the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is that everything you're suggesting is true. I don't look at it that way. And I think a lot of Americans, a lot of the public doesn't look at it as a bribery case. They look at the president of the United States asking a legitimate request that someone investigate. They didn't say prosecute.
But why shouldn't John Bolton and Mick Mulvaney testify? That was the question.
My point is, even if they came and testified and said, yes, the president wanted them to do that, and he was going to hold off a meeting or a phone call or whatever until they did that. I think what I'm saying is they picked the wrong area. The president has the most absolute authority when it comes to foreign policy. Foreign policy is all about quid pro quo. It's every single day.
But you don't really believe that the CrowdStrike server / Biden family is the penultimate example of corruption in Ukraine.
It is not. But it is not an illegitimate thing for the president to do. So you can say he's abusive because he cares more about something that affects him personally. But the president has very broad authority when it comes to these types of things.
Not to abuse his office.
Can I just bring up one piece
I think it's inappropriate, but I don't think it's an abuse of his office.
One piece that Republicans keep going back to is, he was looking into corruption. He cares about corruption. Ukraine got a clean bill of health on corruption. In May, before this aid was approved by Congress. They knew the aid was approved by Congress.
We had a new election.
Before that,
we had a new election.
Before that, the corrupt prosecutor that Donald Trump raised on the call as being a good guy is the corrupt prosecutor that the United States, the IMF, and everybody wanted to fire.
We had a new election. You're missing the fact there's
but the folks Giuliani are hanging around.